Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today, today's case management webinar. My name is Thania Tapia-Sanchez, and I am a case manager here at DayBreak. And today we just wanted to talk to you all and share a little bit about, what case management means, what our role is, and what we can do for clients and their caregivers. Next. So introductions. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I've already introduced myself, but I've also invited my team here today, as I do not work alone. I believe my supervisor, Antoine Robertson, is on, and Anitra, who is also a case manager. If y'all would like to introduce yourselves, that would be great.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Oh.
Hey. Hello, everybody. Antoine Robertson, case manager, rapid response program manager. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anitra, and I'm a case manager on the rapid response team.
Thank you, guys.
What are you doing there, ma'am?
Well, I had a webinar that I was supposed to join at 3, and I wanted to get into the meeting before they locked me out, but I'm in now and I muted it, so.
Okay.
Hi, Rebecca.
Another one of those kind of calls you were talking about.
No. This is
Rebecca, here,
I
I think
myself. I'm going to mute
Oh.
myself.
Okay, good.
Bye.
Good. Okay, sounds great.
Thank you. Yes, and the reason why I invited the rest of the case management team here is in case there are questions that I may not be able to answer. My supervisor and my colleague have, years of experience in case management, and they have a lot of valuable experience to share. So if you hear from them, it's because they have things to share as well. Thank you. Next.
I'm Eddie Williams, working with DayBreak and the case management team. I'm working in tandem as far as housing.
And Karen, would you mind introducing yourself as well, as a person very versed in this and will help us with this, this webinar?
Absolutely. I'm Karen Kelleher. I am support coordinator for caregivers with DayBreak.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Next.
Roger, next slide. Oh, working on it. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to start off by sharing our mission statement here at DayBreak. I know some of you attend previous webinars, and I don't know if it's been mentioned or not, but I just thought I'd share. So at DayBreak, our mission is to build an inclusive, welcoming, and supportive community of care for older adults, people with disabilities, and their family caregivers. Quality of life, dignity, and the right for self-determination are the heart of our mission. So I just wanted to share you all with that because case management is directly, correlated to that. So the first, question, what is case management? Case management serves as a means for achieving client wellness and autonomy through advocacy, communication, education, identification of service resources, and service facilitation. Case managers evaluate and plan the actions needed to meet a client's specific needs. The case manager helps identify appropriate providers and facilitates the connection through the continuum of services. Next slide. So what is the role of a case manager? Case managers are in many ways service coordinators, and service coordination is the act of organizing services to meet the needs of participants and sharing information with other service providers. The goal for us is to coordinate and provide care that is safe, timely, effective, efficient, equitable, and client-centered. And this means that when we reach out to other providers or to other resources, we already know what our clients' needs are, what their preferences are, what their goals are. And we are able to articulate that to the next service provider to ensure that our client is receiving the type of support that is most appropriate for them. Yeah, next. And how our clients' needs determined. I know that a lot of organizations do different type of assessments. We at DayBreak also use an assessment. We do what's called upon the first meet and greet. We do an initial assessment, and they're utilized for different reasons. We use it to determine eligibility, the prioritization of needs of the client. We use it as a tool to gain engagement from the client, and we use it as the basis of our care plan. Yeah, we meet the client. It's a very personal kind of meeting, right, where we try to ask open-ended questions. We get to know or to gather as much information about the client as possible. Sometimes a question leads to the next question, or sometimes there's a lot to unpack within one question. And so we just really try to take the time to tailor our initial assessment to meet that client's needs, to meet that level of, whatever state they may be in at the moment. But we do have a specific kind of structured list of things that we want to know. These include health needs, social needs, food insecurity, just it's a lengthy assessment, but it is to be able to help us, gain the client's intake, and also begin to prepare a care plan if they accept our services. Yeah. So next up, care plan. We use that term a lot. So utilizing a strengths-based approach, case managers create an individualized care plan that is focused on addressing the needs of the client. A care plan is a comprehensive plan that includes a list of clients' needs determined upon the initial assessment. Here we're able to outline strategies and measurable goals. Care plans can also include timeframes. Any available immediate resources we're able to connect the client to. Any next steps. So if we have to, reach out to different agencies, or if we have to send a referral to begin a process, that's included in our care plan. And also we use it to kind of, outline the desires and motivations of that particular client. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the clients, buy-in and motivation to continue on with the service needs that they've outlined for themselves. But we list them there as a kind of a guide and a tool to continue to use, to continue to provide services for that client. The good thing about care plans is that they're flexible, and they can change depending on the client's evolving needs, their participation, and obstacles that may arise. Some things may come really easy, such as signing somebody up for, food services with Meals on Wheels. Other things can take a bit of a longer time, and we may, confront with obstacles such as signing somebody up for in-home support services. Sometimes an application can be declined, and so we have to go back, resubmit an application, try to understand what happened. And so, yeah, care plans remain flexible. It's a collaborative effort. It includes a lot of partners, the client. Yeah. So what services are commonly explored during the initial assessment and hence become part of the care plan? Like I mentioned earlier, medical needs are really big, kind of like one of our priorities, I would say, right? If the client hasn't been to see their primary care physician in a long time, right? That's one of our main priorities. How can we get connected to a primary care physician? Or how do we get them back to who they already had, and how can we reestablish care? Other things that we look at is health insurance, right? Is our client already connected with insurance? Do they just not have the physical card and, they just haven't been in contact with it? Do we need to apply for medical insurance? Things of that nature. Food security, right? Is the client in immediate and dire need of food services right now? When's the last time they ate? Do they have some type of support in the long term for making sure that they have food on a day-to-day basis. Transportation is the big one. We at DayBreak, we have a partnership with Life Elder Care, and so we try to, enroll our clients as soon as possible with Life Elder Care. Oops. In case there is that emergency, in case we need to take them to the doctor next week, we already have that transportation issue resolved. But in a more long-term plan, is the client eligible for paratransit? Is that something that should be explored, and the referral and the application, being made? In-home support services. A lot of our clients, could use some support in many areas. So we establish, we have a conversation, we try to figure out, is this something that they need? Is this something that could be beneficial to them? And we, begin initiating that process. Any financial support. Some of our clients, are lacking clothes or even just with food, right? Is there any kind of immediate financial support that we can, partner with different agencies and try to gather for this client now, but also long-term, does this client have a source of income? Is there a way we can get them a source of income? Legal aid. A lot of our clients sometimes come in with legal matters, and so we just have to make sure we make the appropriate referrals to ensure that they get the support that they need with people who are, legal. Injury and fall prevention. That's where Susan comes in a lot, in addressing the clients, day-to-days, their mobility, any recent falls that they've had, any injuries. We discuss with the client, we take it back to Susan. Hey, Susan, here's a new client. This may be, this person may be at fall risk. Susan can do an assessment and determine, what kind of medical equipment might be beneficial for them. Medication management. We also try to, understand what kind of medications are these clients, using. Does their medication need to be revised? Maybe the last time that anybody revised their medication was years ago, and their health might have changed, and their medication need might have changed, right? So that's something that we also prioritize. And there's many more things that come up based on the individual client. Some things we didn't plan for, and so we just kind of have to navigate and figure out. But these are just some of the primary things that we look for when we meet a client, and things that we try to incorporate in their care plan moving forward. Next. So who is eligible for case management services at DayBreak, and how much does it cost? So for us, for DayBreak, Alameda County residents who are over the age of 65 are eligible for our services. Alameda County residents with disabilities are also eligible for our services. And we also receive referrals from partnering agencies and hospitals such as Adult Protective Services, Kaiser, St. Rose Hospital, and Eden Hospital. And our services are no cost to the client. We have our own, we're a nonprofit organization, but we have our own funding sources. And so these services do not come at any cost to the client. And currently we do accept self-referrals. We do have a main phone line, which is the 510-834-8314. And so we have had some clients call in and say, hey, you know what, I need some support. Is there anybody there that can assist? And so, we do the initial assessment. If they accept our services, we come on board and we create that care plan, and we work with those individuals. Next. So that was about DayBreak, but where else can you receive case management services? Most hospitals and skilled nursing facilities, they either have a social worker on staff or a case manager on staff that is able to guide a care plan for the client. However, in some cases, upon being released from the hospital or upon being released from the skilled nursing facility, the case management services may terminate. And that's sometimes where we come in, where a lot of these hospitals reach out to us and say, hey, this person is about to be discharged, but they have certain needs, and are you able to support them? And so we proceed again with the initial assessment to determine if this is a client that's appropriate for our services and if it's something we can do for them. There are also many other community-based organizations that have a case management program. Typically, they also do an initial intake, an assessment, right, to determine if the client is eligible for their specific services. Cost is also dependent on that organization. But yeah, there are many organizations that do case management as well. Next. And here's just some additional information I thought I'd share. So case managers will create and implement care plans, right? We talked about care plans. We often review case progress. This could be on a weekly basis. This could be on a day-to-day basis. This could be every 2 weeks. It just depends on the individual that we're working with. It depends on their needs and what steps need to be taken, the urgency of it. And eventually, you know, we determine if the case is up for closure, right? If the client is set up in somewhere where they are safe and they have food and they have, you know, they have the correct equipment, or they have transportation services, if they have, you know, social connections that have been made, if we feel that the client is at a place where, you know, our active participation in their care is no longer needed, then we always keep in touch with our clients, but, you know, we do end up closing a case. Yeah, services are always confidential and voluntary. So it is, because we're working with adults, right? It is up to the people that we work with to want to work with us. And so we do our best efforts to ensure that they feel safe and that they can trust us. We keep everything confidential unless, of course, there's some, you know, emergency where we need to call somebody. But yeah, it's up to the client, you know, how much they participate, and their care plan is their individual, you know, care. So we respect their wishes. Case management services are best offered in a climate that allows direct communication between the client, the case manager, and the appropriate service provider. Yeah, just, you know, clear and consistent communication with the client and with the third parties are just how it tends to work the best. Clients must be willing to participate in their care plan in order to optimize services and their outcome. Yeah, we need their buy-in. We need them to be on board with their care plan, and, you know, if it's within our power, then we'll do it. And then caregivers can benefit from case management services by gaining a supportive hand with the coordination of services, resources, and referrals. I know a lot of caregivers, you know, you guys are also given the task of having to be your own case manager of some sort. But when we come on board, we're able to take off some of that load and be able to make those calls and follow up on that appointment and submit that application. And, you know, a lot of times we come with resources that maybe you weren't aware of before, and that you and your, you know, the person you're caring for could really benefit from. So that's why I put the little heart with the hand, because I think, you know, we're a helping hand. And yeah. And I think that is all I have. What's next, Roger? I think question.
Yeah, I love what you have done. You know, it's my job to set up these webinars, and I am so appreciative of the very wonderful presentation you've given us, Thania. And I think you've really spoken to the needs of some of the caregivers that are involved in our program. I was hoping, Karen, if you want to expand on that more, and kind of who is anybody, if you say that people can self-refer, just if that, you know, you can give us a little idea of really who could our caregivers that come to our support system get DayBreak's help, that sort of thing. So Karen, do you want to pick it up from there a little bit?
Well, you're actually saying what my question is, because I can think of a couple of our caregivers that really could use referral services to our case management. if we aren't able to help, certainly the case managers can refer our caregivers to who can. There's some serious breaks in services with caregivers who have no alternative help, are trying to hold down a job, can't because their care receiver needs monitoring and some sort of assistance while the caregiver is trying to work. So we have a lot of gaps that caregivers are experiencing that it would be good to speak to. How can we help that segment of the population who wants to work, can work, is self-employed, but can't leave the house because the care receiver needs monitoring? Can you speak to that?
I'm gonna hand that one over to my supervisor, Anthony.
How could you hand a question that difficult over to me? I would need you to reiterate and go back over the specifics,
Would you like me to repeat it?
please.
Sure. I can think of one of our caregivers in particular that is self-employed as a hairdresser, just as an example. And wants to work, can work, is self-employed, needs to go to her salon to be able to provide that service. Her care receiver needs to be monitored at home. She cannot take him with her to her place of employment. What would you suggest for someone who is in that particular situation, who wants to be a wage earning person and not dependent on social services only? What can we offer her or recommend for her going forward?
You know, in all honesty, I think that's a question for Gavin Newsom. And if I can answer that question, I think I may be employed in that specific capacity. But again,
You know, I'd like to just add, if I could, Antoinette, yeah, because that was a hot seat.
Yeah.
That, you know, in the world we live in the United States at this time, people who are low income sometimes have availability of some amazing services like DayBreak.
Yes.
And for people who have the wherewithal, if you know what I mean, they can hire that. There are senior case managers at work, and we can help you find those people. But I think a good question is, how do you afford it if you aren't low income? How do you afford it? And that question, Karen, was really about finances, wasn't it?
It is. Certainly that's a huge component of it, but it's also finding those services. Well, yeah, finding those services that are affordable. You know, if a person is making X amount of dollars by working out in the community, and 3/4 of that income or that earned salary goes towards respite or caregiving services, it's almost self-defeating. There's a middle population that we see that is neither poor enough to devoid of resources enough that they can have social services, or persons who can afford that. There's that middle ground of needing the services and not really qualifying in either position, either well-to-do or poverty-stricken, if you will.
For folks who are veterans, I think combat veterans, there is a wonderful case management system set up. I know a lot of you, well, you may not qualify, but you may. The person you're taking care of may, and that's a piece of information that's could really make a difference in your life. Veterans Administration.
Well, that's helpful for veterans for sure. I'm looking at the population that wouldn't qualify it for a veteran assistance.
So Karen, I would add regarding I don't know, the caregiver that's taking care of the client who's at work, depending on what the client's needs are, if the client, he or she is able to be at home and they're in a safe environment and they're able to be, and they have a little bit of independence, we would, determine that they're eligible based on their age or if they're disabled. And then from there, schedule a time to meet with the client and then just identify if they maybe can qualify to go to a day program. We can see if we can sign them up for IHSS and see if they are approved for that. Then that'll determine how many monthly hours they get. They can also get another care provider which can care for the client while their caregiver is at work. Yeah, so there's also Comfort Keepers. That's a caregiver support, but that is out of pocket. That's not covered by the county. So there are some other options to explore, but again, it would all depend on our assessment and the intake.
Gotcha.
As we gather more information.
So I might steer this caregiver to speak with you, Anitra.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You knock on enough doors, a door is going to open. And I think I wanted to direct this caregiver in a useful direction because she's willing to do the footwork to see what her options might be.
Okay, yeah, you can definitely refer her to me. But is this for the caregiver or for the person who she's taking care of?
Well, it's for the person she's taking care of.
Okay.
She being the caregiver is that yes. I will have the caregiver give you a call and she can explain her situation. That's very useful, Anitra. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I would invite folks that have joined us, that are caregivers, if you would like to ask a question or share what your experience has been trying to be your own case manager, if you know what I mean. We would love to hear from you, sharing your story a little bit if you'd like to.
Hi, my name is Shantae, and I'm the caregiver I believe Karen was talking about.
Yes.
My husband has Alzheimer's, I believe it's in the later stages, and he also has primary progressive aphasia. He's a wanderer, so he needs 24/7 care, and right now I'm it. I found that applying for IHSS, they said that we had what I considered a substantial share of costs, and we're like almost $2,000 a month. And my husband's on SSI, I guess you call it Social Security Disability. That's pretty much his whole check. And I'm self-employed, like you said, as a hairdresser. Now I can only go when my daughter has sometimes is available on Saturdays when she's not working. She's nursing, and if I can bring him to Antioch, and I live in Oakland, she keep an eye on him while I drive back to Oakland to do a few clients. So I'm that person. So we can't afford, long story short, $2,000 a month share of cost. And I feel like, every door that I get open within the county is, it's like disappointing. Or I heard you say something about day programs, and I was told that there are no day programs even open in Alameda County anymore since COVID, and that because funding is dried up or whatever. So I've looked into that as well. So I definitely would love to have a conversation with you, Anitra, and see what, might be available.
Thank you so much for sharing. The day programs in Alameda County, particularly one, is open. And when you have a chance to talk to Anitra, she can help you with that. And I'm also available to answer questions about that program, Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay. So hang in there, Shantae.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Cleo Dixon, and I was taking care of my mom for approximately 12 years. She had 6 children, only 2 of us were able to do it. And she kind of fell through the cracks because we tried to get help through different services and stuff. And like the other lady was just saying, with the share of cost, it was higher than what we even could afford. So it seems like to me that people who don't have any funds get really just dropped from the system. That's my experience with my mom.
I think that, emphasizes the point we've been making. But the other point I think that's important is there could be, at least at this time, Cleo, more services available. It's possible to get IHSS. It's certainly possible to get into Alzheimer's services. So at one point, maybe there weren't things available. Case managers are a good place to go if you can get one, and DayBreak, I think, can help some of you at least find what's out there. I feel hopeful about that.
It's good to hear it, because at least the information I get from today, I will give to people that I know that need it.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question regarding your, case management service versus others. And when I applied for IHSS for my husband, there was a case manager assigned, and she called it a courtesy call to explain to me what was going on with the share of cost. And also she was trying to explain to me something about spousal responsibility. So after assessment, whatever he was approved for would be reduced by what they called spousal responsibility. And there was an informational call, it providing to me information she thought I probably wouldn't understand, because a lot of people don't. She said that a lot of people lose their providers because of the share of cost element. They don't pay it, so the providers stop coming. So how was I going to frame this question? And she basically told me it was like basically my job. I have to go back to, because it's another agency that determines that. It's like she wasn't going to help me with that. She's in this department over here. She's giving me the information. But now I have to go, navigate this system and figure out what's wrong. And I did go there, and basically I call it, I just got placated, like, I know, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. And, no help, so just additional frustration and dealing with what I deal with on a day-to-day. It's like, you just throw your hands up. It's like, you just got to deal with it. So the difference, what seems I'm hearing with these DayBreak case managers, is they help you navigate it. It's not like you're just going to give me a list of numbers to call and I still have to try to manage all this on my own. Could you address that, please?
Yeah, I can jump in, and anybody please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the person that you spoke to from IHSS was somebody that they have their own caseload of just specific IHSS applications, whether they get approved, denied, rejected. And so that's where their services stop. With just passing on that information and maybe guiding you to the next step. I think where our services come in is we have a much broader area that we work with, and we do work to make those connections, to do those follow-ups, to make those phone calls that tell us yes, no, or this is the place you should be calling. So us as case managers, we do a lot of that work as far as figuring things out. Sometimes we come across situations where we don't know what the next step is, but we're doing making those 3 phone calls to 3 different agencies that might be able to support us. And, like somebody mentioned, finally a door opens and we're like, okay, this sounds like the next best step, right? So then we go back to the client and say, hey, these are the options we've explored. This might be a possibility. Shall we proceed? And so it's a very collaborative process. But it is, it's us doing a lot of that, the phone calls and the following up and the emailing and the submission of documents. And, so those are a lot of the things that we support our clients with, because our case management services are much more broad. And I think that person that you spoke to was just an IHSS case manager that just handles IHSS cases. But anybody correct me if I'm wrong.
You guys sound like a wonderful service. I'm anxious to talk to someone.
Yeah, and I have some clients who unfortunately have nobody, but I do have some clients who do have some really close people in their life that are trying to do the caregiving and the making of the connections. And it really has been a wonderful connection that I've been able to make with some of the caregivers. And all I hear is like, thank you so much for doing that, or thank you so much for like letting me know, or thank you so much for going with her here. And that's a lot of what we do. And yeah, it's a really good service that we offer, and it feels good, and the communication that we have and the connections that we make are all surrounded around the client. But of course, if there are people that are in their support system, we also try to support them as best ways possible and keep them in the loop of everything, right, so that they're aware. But again, we're taking off some of that load, and they can focus on. I have, for example, one client who her and her mom, right, her mom was going through some medical diagnoses, and she was placed in a new home. And the daughter told me, like, when I spend time with my mom, it's always, we have to make a call, we have to go to the doctor, we never get to just hang out. And so after us being able to come on board and provide a lot of that support, she told me, she's like, thank you so much. Like, we can go to the movies now. Like, when I have free time and I'm there for my mom, we can go and do something that's just fun, that doesn't have to do with anything of, her health and her condition. And it just takes off such a huge load. And, the relationship has just benefited from it, because we took a lot of that stress. And we just, we did the best that we could, but it worked out. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's when you need a hand, you need a hand. Wow. Thank you. Anyone else want to sort of talk about your story, what you need, or any of the other providers here at DayBreak to help some of the caregivers that are here now? I think this has been a wonderful presentation, Thania, and the rest of the team, you know, helping flesh out kind of what we can do. And certainly just to present the notion that there are, as Karen says, a door. There can be yet a door you have not knocked on.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's part of the mission of DayBreak. Yeah, so you can always call our resource line, and that is part of what we do at DayBreak, in addition to this particular case management issue. I want to make sure everybody's had a chance to share or ask any questions that they have, but I think this has been a very useful presentation. Thank you so much.
I just want to say how proud I am to be part of DayBreak and see what you case managers do. I've seen you behind the scenes working diligently with very, very challenging cases. And the can-do spirit and the sense of willing to try different angles to serve clients that are very challenging. I'm just so proud to be part of this team. You contribute so much to the community because you don't say no. You explore everything until there's nothing left to explore. I just want to lend my gratitude to what it is that you do.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for participating, for coming, for sharing your story, Shantae, all of you. Yeah, we are all in this together, and there's so much in life that is enhanced by sharing and working together. So be sure to call us, everyone who needs anything, or you can direct them to us along these lines. And I think we're probably ready to close this one out. We will have a newsletter coming out where we'll address these things again for you in a written form, and also a YouTube, so you can watch it once again. Thank you so much.
I also want to thank everybody for joining. Thank you so much, Shantae and Cleo, for sharing your stories. And then thank you to the team for chiming in and, you know, helping make sure we give good, accurate, and proper information to everybody out there. So thank you all so much.
Great job, Thania.
Thank you. Thank you.